Hi, and welcome to a Small, Medium at Large podcast. I'm your host, Gail, bringing you intimate stories that heal. Tonight, we have a very special guest coming to us from Bangkok, Thailand, Debbie Creagh. Debbie Creagh is a well-known international psychic medium and one of the world's rare spiritual mediums. Debbie is also a Reiki Master teacher, an interactive hypnotherapist, an NLP coach, and spiritual advisor. Her life's mission is to empower people to master their destiny and to create a life that is rooted in abundant, unlimited power. Everything that has been divinely gifted through her to assist others on their journey towards well-being and success. She works with spirit, angelic beings, and ascended masters to help clients achieve their highest purpose by channeling truths as a psychic medium. Debbie has worked with clients from over 59 countries. She has been featured in the TV show House Hunters International. She recently received the TripAdvisor's 2021 Traveler's Choice Award as one of Thailand's foremost psychic mediums and healers. Let's welcome Debbie Creagh to the show today. Hi, Debbie.
Hey,
Wonderful.
Gail, how are you?
I'm good. It's so great to have you here.
Oh, it's wonderful to be had.
Yes, I realize we're in different time zones. For me, it's the nighttime. For you, it's the morning. But hey, right now, there's no time. There's just us together.
Hey, no, it's just connection. There's no time. Yes, human constructs.
So I like to always start off with people's childhood because that's, I feel, my intimate part of our talk. Right. I'd like to know, as a child, did you have unusual experiences? And if so, you might share a couple with us. And as you were growing in your childhood, did you have people or family around you that understood the things that were happening to you? Or were you just dealing with those different things on your own?
Yeah, I started realizing like very young that I was different. Mm-hmm. So, I remember my first experience, which is interesting because people don't remember when they're 2 or 3. And I remember lying in this cot and my brother was in the room with me and the door was half ajar. And I remember feeling this incredible presence. So it woke me up. And through the door was this vision, this apparition in white light. And it appeared to be wearing, at that time, I didn't know, like a toga, a wreath around its head. And it just emanated this incredible energy and love. But then it started moving towards me. And of course, being a child, the fear set in. So screaming ensued. And then my mom came running up and both myself and my brother were actually screaming. And she said, it's a dream, it's a dream, it's a dream. But actually later on, when we connected about 21 years of age, I had a conversation with him about it and we'd never talked about it. And he actually remembered and seen it as well. So that was kind of wow. And through the spiritual things that I did later on, people actually ended up describing, when I described it, who that was, and I found out. But as a child, I was like sixth sense. I was hiding under the blankets, seeing dead people, basically whispering. They used to whisper a lot, and I put my fingers in my ear. Sometimes I'd look at the wall, and I would see the molecules of the wall moving and feel like I was going into a portal. So you can imagine as a really young child. And I remember finding out that I was different through the people around me and their reactions to things I was saying in my innocence, like, oh, I saw an angel last night and it was lovely. What was your angel like? And people will go, what are you talking about? So I grew up in a very strong Catholic faith, strong Catholic family. There was church every Sunday. And so, I started in
Ireland, is that where you were growing up?
Pardon?
I said, were you in Ireland at the time? Is that where
you were? Yes, I grew up in Dublin, born and bred in Dublin, and it was church every Sunday, your Sunday roast when you went home, and it was a staple. And I remember not wanting to go to the church because I would get blackouts. And I'd sit there and I just wouldn't see, but I could hear everything. And my dad would take me outside. It'd be about 10 minutes. And so I started thinking something was wrong and it was bad, you know? So I started being quite frightened. And when I started having, oh, that's freaky, how can you do this? Like someone would show me a picture and I'd be able to tell what was going on in that person's life. People would say to me, you know, you see the fear, and how do you know that? That's really accurate. So it wasn't when I was growing up, 100 years ago, that wasn't, you can't talk about it like now. So I ended up creating an internal world, and I tried to stop it, and I tried to keep my experiences to myself for quite a long time. There was no one in my family with the ability, so I didn't have that support or understanding. So it was quite difficult for me for a very long time.
I would think also the intense Catholic Church would not really support those experiences.
No, it was not encouraged at all. And anything supernatural was considered to be sort of the devil's work. So you can imagine,
Yes.
you know, I started thinking, oh, maybe I'm possessed. Maybe the devil's going to come to me and all those nightmare things. But the beautiful thing was, though, there was real angels coming and there was real spirits coming. So the protection was there regardless.
Yes.
You know. But what happened for me that was a massive game changer was my mother became involved in this healing center called the Tony Quinn Healing Center. And I didn't know at the time, but looking back now, he was so ahead of his time. Like he was on mountains eating cherries for 40 days and meditating and doing NLP before anyone else did NLP. But my mom was going to that center and said, okay, I was suffering from depression. I became reclusive because I couldn't be in that world. I couldn't be me. So I didn't realize that by cutting myself off from those abilities, you're actually stagnating your energy, causing depression. So she said, oh, I think you should go and see one of the healers. So I started going to the center, doing bodybuilding there and going to meditation and healing. And one of the couples that worked there, one was a psychoanalyst and the other was a very intense man. They were working there for quite some time and I'd known him. They asked me to start doing essential oils and working from their home. Anyway, one night they asked me to house sit and they were going away. And in those days, if you go away, people are watching the house they break in. So there's a lot of break-ins, so you get a house sitter. Mm-hmm. Their house was a beautiful Edwardian home, high ceilings. They had all the 12-inch TV screens before everybody else did. So I was like, yes, let's do this, watch movies and DVDs, eat popcorn. So when I was sleeping in their room in the middle of the night, I was woken up like I was when I was a child, which hadn't happened in a very long time.
So were you in your 20s then? Is this,
pardon?
Were you in your 20s then, or were you a teenager?
Yeah, I was about 20, yeah.
And just to interrupt for 1 second, could you tell our audience what that means, the NLP?
That's neuro-linguistic programming.
Neuro-linguistic
programming. It's kind of considered to be the antivirus for the brain. And people, Tony Robbins and whatever, he learned that when he was 21 from the originators of that. And then basically went out and they tried to sue him and said, you stole this. And he changed the naming of it and started writing books and took that to a whole new level. So you got to give him credit for that. But he didn't create that. He learned it from someone else and he developed it and put his own stamp on it. But back then, my Tony had learned all that and he was into power of the mind and all those things. So he did seminars and I frequented a lot of those seminars. So I became very involved in this. I met other people that were having dreams that were actually happening, premonition dreams. I had people finally I could talk to about certain things. So it was, for me, I just wanted to be there all the time. And at that time, there was a recession in Ireland. You couldn't get a job in McDonald's. So I had all the time in the world to kind of formulate, get a job in the health store, get a job doing this and really immerse myself fully because I wanted to understand why I could see what I did. But I still didn't meet people that were similar to me. Everything that I did was still really out there, even amongst them. So one night anyway, I was staying in their home and I woke up feeling a presence in the room and there was a man leaning over me. And of course, panic, but I could see through him. And it was only a split second, and I closed my eyes and I went, go away, go away. And I opened my eyes and he was gone, but I could still feel the presence. So I turned the lights on, under the covers again, going, oh no, I thought I had fixed this, you know. And about 6 a.m, I woke up, because eventually I fell asleep, and packed my bags and got out of there. So when the family returned, they said, oh, how was everything? And I said, well, I have to talk about this. I can't stay quiet. I feel like I can with this group of people. So I told them what happened, and the husband said, oh, that's interesting. And sort of sat there for half an hour with his very intense eyes. And I said, okay, you're going to tell me? And he said, well, the neighbors came this morning and said, I'm so glad you're okay. And he said, what do you mean we were away? What do you mean you're okay? Well, the robbers breaking into the house last night, we saw the light go on, and the robbers run. They were breaking into the house. So in that moment, I realized that spirit had come to save my life and wake me up. Because in those days, you know, if you were caught in the house. So I thought, okay, I'm tired of being afraid of this. Now I'm curious. Now I want to know more. And ironically, the family knew that spirit was there. They had been to another psychic, actually Tony, and he said he protects the house. So that was the beginning of the journey for me to go, okay, I really need to understand this. Yeah.
He was a messenger and a protector.
Very much so. And I was able to describe in detail what he was wearing, but it was like a split second and oops. And he was like from the 30s, wearing a sleeveless little V-neck, one of those little vests they used to wear with the shirt. He was about 38, hairs to the side, but it was literally boom. And I thought, well, how can I remember? So when spirits come to you, they impregnate things within the third eye. So even though I saw him physically for a millisecond, I was able to fully describe what he looked like to the owner of the house. And he said, check, that's what I've seen. So that was, wow, okay.
So we have to commend your mother, because, you know, a mother has a love for their child that always only wants the best for their child from their heart. They want what would be the best. And so in the culture and situation that she was in Dublin, she found a place to really bring you to let you open up into the things that she maybe herself wouldn't be able to, you know, open up for you, but bringing you to that place was her way of putting you on the right track. And
right. Well, myself and my mother had quite a difficult relationship. So we didn't have that friendship, you know, bond. It was difficult. I lived in fear of her a lot. She was a very powerful character, but she went to the healing centers wanting to become a healer herself. So she'd been frequenting this center to a different healer than I was going to, and practicing different things and crystals and all kinds of stuff. So this was way, way back before you see the crystals now. So she, even for her, she was ahead of her day. And to this day, I've never been able to ask her how she knew certain things. So you go, wow, I wish we'd had that relationship, because she talked about when she was about 28, 29, she worked in this very high-so shopping mall in Dublin that would be like Harrods, same. And she said that one day she found this Ouija board in the window and she freaked out and put it back in the storeroom and hoped that no one would know she removed it. But we never had that relationship where I went, how did you know back in your day, in your generation, what a Ouija board was? So there's a lot of things I lost and thought about later. Wow, how did she know those things? I remember.
This shows me every time I keep talking with, I'm finding, like, as I do these podcasts and interviews, I'm finding so many like-minded people where we can talk about these things and we both know what we're talking about. And so it seems like she was having these experiences and things, but it was unknown to you. But I think you were also genetically connecting in a way where you were actually both going on, because you do tarot and other things. I think you were going along similar paths. It's just that she didn't allow you into that space. but it was
Right. And then so when she did, and she kind of sent me to the center, she then was kind of, oh, you're getting obsessed with the center. And I'm like, well, this is where the answers are coming from me. So we were very different. My mom would get feelings about things and be pretty spot on. But it's also on my father's side of the family, yet nobody, it's still, oh, she does that stuff. It's still not, you know what I mean? Where there was somebody using, but my dad is incredibly intuitive as well. Very much so.
Yeah, so when we look back and we uncover these, shields or things that people have put up, we often find in our families, there are other people that are carrying around information or intuition or things that they may not have shared openly, but they're actually there amongst the family members.
Yeah.
So,
It was interesting because I had someone do some mediumship one time. So I don't know. I don't normally get mediumship, but he was very spot on. And we were working together doing seminars in mediumship in Bangkok. So he had my grandmother cross, and she said, we knew she was different. We knew she was special, but she used to argue with my grandfather, should we tell her and should we whatever, or let her figure it out for herself? And the decision was let her figure it out for herself. So I hear this later on going, oh my goodness.
So now let's flash forward even further. So in the 20s, you're getting lots of exercises and things that you're learning to get in touch with your spirit and intuition and open up more into other things. So did you continue on that path, or did you take a job that has nothing to do with that? Did you have because you really have a career at what you're doing, and that takes a lot to build up a career that way. And I'm wondering, was that always the path you were on, or were you doing other things and then you finally decided, no, I'm going to only focus on doing psychic readings and mediumship and teaching, and this is my life? How did you get to that place?
No, it wasn't a smooth ride. It was very bumpy. No, what happened was I was involved with the center for maybe 16 years.
Oh.
And I still wasn't getting a lot of answers. I mean, I got a lot and I had some kind of like-mindedness and it was great, but then I was hitting doors where I was telling people things and they were looking at me. So I thought, okay, maybe this has gone as far as it needs to. And I find this has happened a lot in life. And I think you probably have that happen. Everything has an expiration date. Everything has a destiny to a point to get you that far. So that was the catalyst of the beginning for me. And I used to meditate with this beautiful healer called Adine, and she was just amazing. She was kind of like a mother figure for me. And then she'd call me over going, don't tell anybody, but we were in the meditation and I saw who you were sending that distant healing to, and it was a famous celebrity that I really cared about at the time that was really ill. And she said, if that person ever met you, they would know you because of that zap. And she was kind of very taken aback, going, what did you do? I said, nothing. I just put an intention to send love to them. So I started kind of going, why was that interesting for her, considering the line of work she did? So I started working with this other lady that was in a different center that someone had referred me to, that did, at that time, again, someone very advanced for their time, cutting cords, and she'd been doing it for 30 years. So basically she sat you in a room and she got you to go deep within your body and look at the energetic cords that you had attached to the people that were toxic for you. So I had a lot of issues with my mom and I wanted to heal that because I felt it was really holding me back. So I was going to her for a couple of months and it was very interesting, the colors of the cords, what the cords meant. And it came intuitively to me, going, I see this green cord, this is her envy, this is because she's not able to do, and so on and so forth. So when I was doing that work, I was invited to Champagne in France by a friend of mine who had said, oh, my grandmother's a witch and she's going to be so interested in seeing you. So one night we're lying in the bed in this attic room, there's a tiny window and this bolt of light came in, and immediately my instinct went, no, this is not good. But it was light. So I was confused because for me, light's always positive. And I could see this thing coming towards me like that, and she could see it. So I screamed and said, no, you cannot enter me. You cannot come to me. So it just kind of went like powder and disappeared. So I was out of the bed. We were down drinking, you know, tea or coffee. I can't remember. It's silly o'clock in the morning. And this girl sat in front of me and her whole face changed. I'd never seen someone shapeshift. And her grandmother had come through her and she said, oh, you're one of us now, and start doing all this. And here I am in the middle of the countryside in France and Champagne, nowhere to go. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? So I just prayed to God. I've always had a very strong connection with God since I was a child, like my best friend. So I prayed to God to keep me safe. And then I was told, you'll be fine. And when I woke up the next day, the whole family had left the house and they'd gone to see the grandmother because some weird stuff went on in the house that night. Nothing to do with me, to do with another guest. So I said, right, I need to be taken to the train station. I need to go home. So when I came back, I felt very vulnerable and open that could have come to me. I was very confused and frustrated that light came after me. So when I went back to the lady, she said to me, where's your protection? Did you not learn protection? Did they not teach you that protection in the center? And I'm like, no. And that was the beginning for me of understanding protection in any work you do is so ultimate. So I think doing the cord work left me vulnerable and wide open energetically because she kept telling me it would. And I went into that situation. So believe it or not, unfortunately, it scared me so much. I didn't do anything for 10 years at all. I shut down.
I have a very similar story, just that I was a bit younger, but I had that when I was doing volunteer work of healing cases, they called them, where they would tell me the name and the age and the city that someone was in. And in a couple of minutes, I would tell them everything that was physically wrong with the person. I was doing hundreds of them. And when I started doing so many, I was able to even tell them the particular pharmaceutical drugs that would be inside the person's body for their illness.
Wow.
But I was 16 at the time, so it was not like I had much information about bodies and this and that. And it was through this mind dynamics course, same thing like when you went to a healing center where you taught, these people teach different techniques to people, but they didn't teach anything about protection, about protecting your own self. They didn't do you anything. They just said, you go inside these bodies. So I'd go inside all these bodies and see all this disease. And after almost 2 years of doing it, I started to feel, and I don't know if this is something that you find is common with other people telling you that, but it was always on my left shoulder, this energetic, negative, dark presence. And I never saw anything, but I felt such a fear that I was afraid to go to the bathroom unless my boyfriend came in there with me because I was afraid to be left alone.
Oh,
And
wow.
I called up the organization, and Werner Erhard, the man who had trained me into doing this and used me as my friend Russell calls a shill, because I would stand up there and do these cases in front of audiences in hotels in front of 100 people. And then the people would sign up to take the course because they'd say, in 2 weekends, you'll learn how to do this too. And when I said to them, I'm so in fear of that someone's trying to possess my body, they said, it was your own reality. So you make your reality. Now you have to do it yourself, whatever it is. And I was lucky to have a father that was very spiritual who guided me and said, you have to face what this is. But they never taught you anything about protection. So all of these entity things were coming into me. It was like a dying person. And the whole experience of exercising him out was very simple, but very powerful, as you know. Like when you said, he just fell into little dust. So I had to do a similar thing, face this entity. And then I did the same as you. I shut down from 1972 until 1998, when I started up with scientists.
Wow.
I never wanted to do another thing again. I only let whatever happened naturally, whatever dreams or whatever things that came about. But the idea of doing intentional, that kind of work of healing with people and going in their bodies and seeing what the problem is, I felt that I should not do that anymore because of that experience. And there's something, I mean, it sounds sad, but it's comforting to know you had a similar experience and that it reacted the same way that for 10 years you just said, so I'm shutting this down now.
No, it's wonderful. I think, and I just felt when I heard about you initially, I just had this weird, we've known each other so many lifetimes, and I don't get that often, and it just made me super excited. So it doesn't surprise me we've had similar experiences at all. But it's funny. It's almost like if you start looking, it's almost like textbook experiences. Let's put her into a family that's Catholic and let's have this. Let's send them to this person and let's make them completely stop. And then have to eventually realize that you can't, because life is going to be life. And the universe wants you to do what it wants you to do to share that gift. So you can shut down for a certain period of time, but it is going to orchestrate an experience for you to actually follow that. So I actually think it's a rite of passage. So then we really appreciate it when we get to where we are now, you know?
So now after the 10 years, you decided to go and let the different things that were happening to you freely emerge again. And then did you start doing things like, I know you do tarot and pendulum and different things like this. Is that when that began?
No, I'll be honest with you, it wasn't so intentional the second time around. Again, it was life. So basically, things would happen where I might be in a restaurant, and it wasn't often, but I might be in a restaurant and somebody's mother would be on my right shoulder. And I'd go, okay. And she goes, I really need you to tell my son this. And I'd walk over to a table and go, excuse me, serve your dinner. I know you don't. And I would be twisting my fingers like, oh God, if I get rejected one more time, you know, because you do as a child, you probably understand a little bit what I'm talking about. Excuse me, you don't know me. And you know, I'm actually a really sane person, but your mom, she's standing here in her favorite blue dress with her heart pendant. Her hair was set and done like she loved, and she's wearing her favorite, and they would give me the name of the actual lipstick, you know, from Lancome or whatever it is, Estee Lauder, and she's wearing her pearl drop earrings, and then just tears. And she would like to tell you, bam. And they just say, thank you very much. And I never got the rejection, ever. So when that would come, I would do that, and you would just see the reaction of people of joy and closure, and you want to keep doing it, but you don't understand it. And I couldn't meet anybody that could explain it to me. So I just let it be. When it happened, it would happen. But again, turning point, I was in my 30s and I had been in a very abusive marriage, not even a year. And I wanted to leave, and I was praying and praying for spirit to release me, but I was really lost. Like I'd really lost my connection completely, but I was praying anyway. And I would remember walking down this road one day, and it was a crossroads. And, you know, I did anthropology. Crossroads have so much spiritual, you know, in all folklore, so powerful energetically. So it happened to be a crossroads, and a church was on my left with the graveyard. And I was about to cross over the road, and I wasn't even looking. I didn't even want to look where I was going when I was crossing the road. I was just lost. I'd reached the end. And this voice came out of nowhere and said, if you have found out you had a terminal illness and you were going to die in a year, how would you live your life? How would you live that year? And I just was paralyzed, because it wasn't a thought. It wasn't externally like someone going, hey, Deb. It was, you knew where it was intuitively and instinctively when that happens. You don't have to be a psychic, by the way, for that. I know people have had it. And I went, oh my God, I know where that came from. I better listen. So I started standing there for maybe 15 minutes running through. I go to Italy, I learned Italian, I did this, and I started getting all psyched. And then they came back and said something similar to, more profound, obviously. Why would you wait to find out you're going to die to truly live, Deb? And it just went home, and I packed my bags, and I was getting up to leave. Another fight had started, and spirit, I literally left my body, and I saw myself standing there in fear. And I thought, that's pathetic. What's that? I'm strong for that. And bam, into my body I went, and I left. And I must have been, the road where my house was incredibly long. It was maybe 2 miles till you got to the end of it. And there was a bar at the end of it. And I must have been halfway down before I realized I'd left and where I was. Like I literally was in trance.
Mhm.
And what pulled me out of the trance was a beep, 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 beep. So I thought it was him. He'd come to get me. And I turned around and it was a taxi driver. He said, "Get in, love, get in." So I got in the car and I was trembling because now I realized I've left, like, and I'm terrified. He's going to come after me and all that. And the taxi driver looked around. He was looking in the mirror at me and he said, "Don't worry, love. He's never going to hurt you again."
Mm.
And I heard Earth Angel. And I knew Spirit had literally lifted me from that room, taken me, got that taxi driver. Now I went down to the bar and put my 50p coin. I still remember shaking so much I couldn't put it in the phone, the pay phone. And I found out where my mom was. And the taxi driver took me there. We're talking about an hour and a half out by the seaside. And I got out of the car and he said, "Enjoy the rest of your life, no charge." And my mom was standing there and she says, "Where's the taxi driver for me to pay for you?" Because I left with no money. I literally grabbed my handbag and whatever. I had no money in it or whatever. And I said, "You just saw the taxi leave." She said, "I didn't see a taxi. I've just seen you standing on the road, like in trance." So I went, wow. And that was the first time in a very long time I realized, and I said, right, I need to follow this path. I need to start my life. So I went to Italy and there was no spirituality there. And when I was in Italy, I went to Oxford and met this girl who was coming to Thailand. And I heard about the Buddhism and all of that. So I said, right, I'm going to go there. And that's clearly where Spirit wanted me to start my healing career.
So that's an amazing story. So you left Ireland, you went on to France, you went on to Italy,
Sardinia, Italy, yeah.
and then you found yourself propelled to Thailand, and that's where the whole spiritual and your career started to open up and develop. And you
I had a
probably
friend
did
called,
not knowing, right? You didn't
no,
know
I
that
had
you were-
no clue. I was a teacher. I was an English teacher and I'd been teaching English. I did a whole degree in it and whatever the case. And I was a teacher and I thought I'll travel the world and see people and move around because I'd always wanted to travel the world. So there was nothing about spirituality involved. But I met this girl when I lived in Italy for 3 years, and which was a dream of mine to learn Italian. So I still fulfilled something. But I met this girl called Rosa Bianca, and she was incredible. And I could tell when I met her, I said, "Oh, you're psychic too." And she said, "Oh, I knew you were psychic." When you know psychic for another, you look in each other's eyes going, "I know you're psychic."
Right.
But she'd come back, her mother was dying. And I touched her arm one day. I said, "Go to the hospital, mom's going tonight." Because she was at the hospital every single day. And she said, "I don't want." And she said, "What are you talking about? My mom's coming out next week." I said, "No, baby, go to the hospital. Mom's going to go tonight." And her mom did. So she came to my house after a week of her mom passing, and her mom crossed. And her mom didn't just cross and pass a message. She went through me and went through my friend, and we could smell her on our clothes. And I said to Rosa Bianca afterwards, right, now I really need to know why this happens. It's not spiritual enough for me here. I'm not finding what I need. And she was kind of also a catalyst for me to leave Italy. So when I came here, I had a really hard time, and I met somebody in the acting, as I was doing theater as well. I met someone who said, "Here, I've done this thing called Reiki." And she said, "I think this is for you, not for me. I don't even know why I learned it." And she gave me the manual and I went, "Oh, this is what I need." So Spirit just literally put people in my path in the most unusual places. And doing the Reiki and learning how to heighten your vibration and learning how to heal all your stuff and clear all your negativity and really connect properly with protection, bam, that was it for me. So that was a beginning of a love life of spirituality and Reiki and all those things. Because once you tap into that, you can pretty much do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I did house clearings for 10 years. I did removal of black magic and voodoo and da-da-da. And he didn't train me in it, but when you have that kind of protection and vibration and you're working with that and you accumulate all those beautiful guides, it's not just for Reiki, you can use it in anything.
I became a Reiki master only because after I went through the first Reiki 1, the teacher said, "You're the only person I've decided I would ever put through the master class immediately also." So I went off to Hawaii and finished my master class in Hawaii. And I haven't used Reiki in a long time, which is, talking with you is making me feel like I want to take out my papers again and start thinking about it. But when I did use it, it was exactly what you said. It was for a house removal of a negative energy in a home. It was also it gave me a way with people that had lost someone, or that were really in the throes of the grief and of having lost a loved one, of being able to bring in sort of a centered energy to that. And then when I went and did it with someone who was dying, it gave her peace and relaxation that she was not able to have for the amount of pain that she was in. But when I did the Reiki, she was able to sleep and go into that place of complete rest. And it's a very powerful work.
It
And
really
it
is.
really is.
I had
And
a woman who totally changed my life. She was an Indian lady, and she'd been dying in hospital for 3 weeks. So her organs were all shriveled. The doctors couldn't figure out what was going on with her, and the family knew me very, very well because I had. Anyway, that's a long story. But basically, I went in, and all the family were standing around, and they're like, "Okay, Deb, what does she want to tell us?" And they were kind of like, and I said, no, I'm here for her, not for you guys. Maybe in 3 days, it'll be your turn, but for today, because I already knew, I had told them 3 sessions and she'll leave, because they couldn't get her to go and she was suffering. So they had her in an induced coma with all the tubes, which I'm sure you've worked with as well. But it was my first experience having a full-blown conversation with someone in coma, because I was able to connect with her higher self, and she was telling me that she had been engaged to this guy, and 2 months before the marriage happened, he broke up and married someone else 2 months later. And it was just very interesting watching how she never healed from that, how she carried that, how she allowed that toxic energy of the hurt and the pain and the betrayal. She never dealt with it. And she'd married this really wonderfully generous man, very handsome, very well-to-do. Like, she had married really well. He'd taken her all over the world. But she lived back in that. She never let go of it. So no matter what he did for her, she played it over and over. And that's what happened to her body. It eventually kicked into the physical, from the mental, emotional, and spiritual of holding on to that. Eventually it manifests in the physical. So I remember talking to her to ask her to forgive it, and talk to it the way spirit, like, communicated. And tears were rolling down her face, even though she was in coma, and they were like, she's crying. I said, she can hear me. And so the second time I went, we talked, and she was saying, oh, I have all these gifts. I was going to go on this holiday. And she was telling me where everything was. I need to make sure these gifts get to everybody. So they all went and ran around doing that, her last wishes. And then on the third one, it was just one person that she wanted to say goodbye to. So I got him on the phone. He said, do I not need to fly? I said, for what? She's in coma. And he's chatting away to her, going, why isn't she responding? She's in coma, dear. Keep going. I'll pass it on. And she literally went from black. We thought she had black magic on her. She was black. And she became like you and me. And she passed with a smile on her face. And I've never forgotten it. Never forgotten. I've been in hospitals working with people that way many times. And I always share with people, don't wait till you're dying to make that peace. Make it now. Let her be an inspiration to you, so she didn't die in vain. I'm very much about learning from those experiences and passing on to the living, so that we don't do that.
I have to say, when you opened earlier saying how we have so much in common, and you're one of my first guests where I don't know you for 20 years, like some of the other guests in my earlier podcasts. And yet I feel so, I mean, we only have a certain amount of time to talk, but I have a story for everything that you've been telling. From the, yes, I had cancer and I ended up out of a relationship and marriage after the cancer, when I realized I didn't know how long I was going to live. And it's the exact story you're saying, but it was actually my reality. And these other things that you're saying about, when my father-in-law was, he had committed suicide, but he did not finish. And he was in the hospital for 10 days. And I went to be with him. And when I got there, my husband had been there already with him. And when we went in, I said, I got out of the plane from the airport, and I said, I want to go directly to the hospital. I cannot go to the house. He said, no, you'll see him in the morning. It's nighttime. I said, no, I have to see him tonight. I have to see him now. And he was not in a coma, but he was in a respirator and a thing where there was no way he could ever talk. And I just opened my mouth while standing at the edge of his hospital bed. And the words that just came out were the things he wanted to say. I just let myself be like a vessel to be his speaking. And it meant so much to him. He was shaking his head like this in such appreciation that I could speak these words for him. And when we left the hospital and we're driving off, I turned to my husband and said, now he's going to die tonight. And he said, how do you know he's going to die tonight? I said, I just know he's going to die tonight. This is why I came here. This was what he was waiting for, that last moment for that person to appear. And we go home, and then we're asleep, and the phone rings at 3 a.m. or whatever it is, 2 a.m. to say that he had passed. And it was a very powerful experience to let a person speak through you, but a very helping and assisting thing. So these kind of stories that we share is hopes that other people who hear these stories will then be there for that person and not think, oh, just because they're in a coma, they can't hear me, or there isn't maybe somebody possibly they couldn't speak through to communicate with us. We maybe can know and feel things in the presence of that person. So these are very good stories for people to share, and they're real. They're not made up stories.
Very important. Very
So
important, because we forget sometimes when we get used to this, that this is we are very blessed, and it's very unique how we live our lives. We have that insight into that world, and everybody else is thinking about their mortgage and their cars and their relationships, and they have no clue outside of that how magnificent, you know, the energy is, and the kind of, when you tap into that, like I was getting emotional when you were telling this story, because it's just the most beautiful thing to be able to do for somebody. And it really is.
What I always say is you have to step out of the way, like take away your brain's thoughts that are totally irrelevant and let the spirit come through. And if you can just let yourself get out of the way, then all these wonderful things can open up in front of you. So
I always tell my students,
yes, we come from the same, whatever you were, I think you were correct on that assessment. And it's where we
you show up and let spirit do the rest. I say to my students all the time, show up. It's not about you. You're not doing it. Show up, be that vessel, be that conduit. You don't need to do anything else except show up and trust and have faith in, and you will see the most incredible things happen. And that's your growth.
Well, you actually answered one of the questions I was going to ask, which was sharing an experience that you've had. So that was very powerful for you. So we spoke about the man. So
there's so many.
Right. I have so many questions here, but we're getting on in time. So I wanted to find out about, there were 3 techniques that you spoke about that people can do daily to empower their lives. And I was wondering if that's something you could share, or if that's, I know it's immense amount, but if there's any captioning or short version.
Yeah, one of the things that I have, especially during the last year and a half, for people like you and me, we're working on ourselves all the time, and we have all these different techniques. And I feel like maybe 5 years ago, people overcomplicate things so that the average Joe will keep going and fumbling around and need to keep paying them because they feel like, well, I'm still confused. I like to keep things so simple. I give it to a person, they can do it for the rest of their lives, never needing to come back to me. They shouldn't have to come back to me for something that empowers them if you can show them how to do it. I'm very much about empowering people to be their own internal coach. So one of the things that people don't know, and I learned this through hypnotherapy and the NLP stuff that I did, is that there's a thing called neuroplasticity. We don't have to keep all of these belief systems and negativity that we've had since we were kids. We don't have to go, well, I've forgiven this person the best that I can, but I'm never going to forget what they did to me. At the end of the day, it's not the memory that's the problem, it's the emotion attached to the memory that's the problem. Remove the emotion away from it, which is what real forgiveness and healing does. It's just a memory. If it's just a memory, it's no longer really important anymore, and boom, off it goes until something else comes forward. So what I try to tell people is, look, it doesn't matter how long you've been a certain way. Today, you can start afresh and actually prep yourself for success. So getting up in the morning and having a routine of prepping yourself for an incredible day, and you're putting that out into the universe and saying, right, I have now done my part. My intent is to have this awesome day, to make all these amazing things happen. People don't, they crawl out of bed, they have their coffee and they hope for the best. And no, not at all. So one of the things I love to do every time I have a client is give them certain tools to use and certain awarenesses of this is how you can manage your day and make it phenomenal. So one of the first things that I do every day when I wake up is to chant. Most entrepreneurs do it, most millionaires do it. Nothing's left to chance. You get up in the morning and you chant. So when I did the NLP, one of the chants that we did was, I have all that I need within me now. I am confident. I can do this. Yes. And you do it 10 minutes, because what happens is your brain goes in going, oh, you look like an idiot, or you look stupid, and all that negativity comes to play. But there's a filter between your conscious and subconscious mind that filters what it believes is deemed accurate for you. So that's all that negative stuff that filters into that negative belief you have, and it shoves out and rejects what it deems inaccurate. So we need to bombard that so that drops, and it does if you do it for long enough. So I think they've timed it for about 3 minutes where that filter is going no, no, no. So if you go for the 10, you override it, and then you get the good stuff in there. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I feel that people don't know is that they're enough. Just that simple. You're enough. So I have all that I need within me now, reminding people, stop looking out there for your joy, look in there. Your reality is the fruit of your mind. You're creating your own reality. So it's a reminder. As I say, I have a blouse on today, I can't show you, but my goosebumps are literally here, because when I do it, it brings up your vibration. In NLP, they call it getting yourself into peak state. But it actually brings up your energy. I mean, I want you to try it. You're going to go, oh, my hair is going like this. So all that I need within me now. I am confident. I can do this. Yes. And your subconscious mind works with 75% body language, and then the rest is verbal. So when you're going, I've all that I need, and you're pulling the energy in from the universe, your subconscious mind going, oh, we're doing that, are we? Oh, okay. And I'm confident. And it's looking at your body language as well as listening to what you're saying. So eventually what happens when you do it often enough, repetition and consistency is how it makes programs. It goes, oh, I'll set a program up for you for that. So after a small period of time doing it, you're starting to cancel out that negative stuff you tell yourself in the morning. And now you've got this new of all that I need, and you just keep it going. So it's a great way to start your day. It's a great way to prep yourself for success. And then just have your vision of what it is that you want your goals, and visualize for 5 to 10 minutes in that peak state. And then you get on with your day, taking those actionable steps towards those goals until they manifest and are realized. People write down goals going, oh, law of attraction, I read The Secret, and that's it. And they go, I didn't get it. If you want something you've never had, you got to do something you've never done. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over and then be confused that nothing's changed. So implementing these small, little, easy things, it's so simple to stand in front of the mirror and feel silly and vulnerable and do it. But then after about, I don't know, depending on the person, a week to 2 weeks, you're like, oh, and you're like, so I had this man come to me, and he was just like, during COVID, his whole company went down 50%. The people in the company were young. They felt that his ideas were too old, and he was trying to use old techniques. And I said, get in there and get your team chanting. And he went, huh? they'll look at me crazy. I said, listen, I've done seminars where the whole room is drunk on energy, and I get everyone say, you're awesome. No, you're awesome. And you've everybody, and you can physically feel the vibration. I'm like, let's do the work. So I've done this in large groups of people, like 50 to 60 people, and watch people go nuts on positivity. And it's only like 10 minutes. Didn't even do it 10 minutes for them. So he went in and did it. I said, how is it? He said, the negative person that I was having the problem with just left, and I got new people in, and everything's going great. And I said, see, try new things.
It's a stressful time right now. And
It's very important to override that.
So
very important.
More important than ever to be able to be
Really.
the best and most positive being that you can be, and put out positive energy into this world instead of all the scary negative stuff that we're being, intensely bombarded with. We need to remain that, you could become incredibly depressed, and that
Yes.
we need to turn that around to becoming incredibly positive.
Yes.
And
so that really is very easy.
And
once you get used to it, then you tweak it for your own thing. So when I was doing the course on the master level, they get you to write your own chanting for what you want. So I was writing, I'm going to be #1 psychic medium, I'm going to help this amount of people, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that.
And I chanted it. You hit the #1 already. So that came true. Let's remind you that you just voted #1
and number 10 in the world. So here's
filled with a lot of spiritual things going on.
So what happened was I did it every day for 2 months, and then just kind of got on, because everything started manifesting in my life for me and other things, because I manifest all the time. This is how I live my life. I live what I preach, basically. What you see is what you get. And so I pass it on, go, and I share it with my students. Look what I did. And students can see me manifesting and go, and that inspires them, right? So I teach courses in manifestation and this stuff too. So my friend was looking the other day, I lost something, and I was going through all my folders and stuff, and found the thing I was looking for. And my friend picked up this folded piece of jotter paper, and he said, Deb, when did you write this? And I said, what is it? I said, oh, give me that. That probably should go in the bin. He said, no. When did you write this? And I looked at it 3 years ago. I only did it for 2 months. And he said, you've achieved everything on this piece of paper. And the universe made me lose whatever I lost in order for me to find that, going exactly 3 years to the day, Deb. Yep. So my best friend said, because he's very into manifesting as well. He's very similar. He communicates with spirit. We do it differently, but I'm around someone who's just manifesting and positive all the time, and we live that way.
I didn't even know until I met this Tiwa Indian man named Frank, and he was, it's a long story that I won't get into here, but he is very regarded amongst all the Native American tribes. He was like the peace pipes, and he was, what they call the road man, so that when any ceremonies were done in teepee, he would be the person outside protecting the space for the people inside. And when I met him, and it was over a watch repair or something, nothing to do with a Native American ceremony or anything like this, he said that I was the greatest manifester he'd ever met. And I'd never even thought that I manifested anything when he said that. And then he started to point out to me, he said, you said you wanted to meet Native American people. He said, and the next thing I know, I hear you're involved with the Huichol Indians in Mexico, a group of people that is very difficult to get involved with. And I had never even thought how our thoughts manifest the things that come, because if I'm doing it for someone else or some other thing, it just seems so easy to me that I never thought of it as you're manifesting something.
Right.
So I was grateful for his pointing out his, observation or whatever. But I started paying attention to that, the things that you want, they're going to come to you at certain times, and you may not be ready for them when you may think of this day, oh, I wanted this. And then when it comes to you a month later, you say, what am I doing with this? Well, you put it out there.
Yeah, you can get them. I always say to people, when you forget about it and you just trust and you kind of just let it be, it comes effortlessly then. Like I've had things I wanted since I was a child, and they've all just happened in the last year or two. And I'm like, wow. And that's because I just got happy and I got, manifesting and just live my day one day at a time. And all these things I'd asked for a long time ago all came flooding in without me going after it. Like singing, I'm singing with a Grammy nominated performer who happens to be my best friend, Norwood Young from America.
Oh,
And
how
we came and met, and it was just instant soul connection. So all I wanted to do when I was a kid was sing and heal the world. And that was it. And you were laughing at my globe on my website. You're going, that's my favorite song, Heal the World. And I thought, oh my God, we're nuts. Like you and me, the connection is crazy. But, there I am singing, and it is opening a Hollywood Soul Supper Club. It'll be the first of its kind with soul food in Bangkok. And I'm going to be part of all of that. So not only did I just get to sing, but it's like, bam, on a whole other level. So Spirit does things in a big way when you're in alignment with your purpose.
yes. And I have to mention, there was something you said earlier that I want to mention is very important, that the times when I found myself having dis-ease or disease has often been when I've completely forgot about my connection to spirit, or what am I doing here? Why and what's my purpose here? And when I've gotten lost in those ways, that's when I found myself having different body, whether it's depression or actual physical ailments, that often that gets attached to the fact that you're not doing those things you should be. And when you start doing them, those other things seem to dissipate, or as you said, just float away like that. So very important to remember to our listeners that this is a very important thing to remember. We're getting close to our time, and I wanted to see, let's see. Did you bring your pendulum?
Yes, I did. My battery's gone. I wanted to say one thing to you on that point. I had a cyst in my breast, and I remember it scaring me. And I had disconnected from spirit. I was stressing, and I wasn't actually allowing. So when I got the cyst, spirit said, "This is your alarm. So when you're out of alignment." So in the end, I ended up seeing it as a blessing. So when it would go bump, 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 and start hurting, I go, okay, thank you for the reminder. And I would just send it love and say, thank you for the blessing you're bringing me. And it was painful. Thank you for the blessing. And I would send it Reiki, disappeared on its own, and just got back into that alignment.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. If we can look at I love what you just did, the dis-ease in the body. I say that all the time, exactly like you just did. It scared me. I'm like, oh my God, I do that.
Well,
because it is.
This show isn't going to be our last conversation.
No.
I can always have you on again on another show, but I think we'll be talking before there's another show, because we have a lot.
Well, actually, I was doing dowsing, now that you say it, with my friend last night. My bestie has this beautiful chart.
Oh, lovely.
And as you can see, there is months and dates and yeses and nos and all of that. And we actually asked last night if this would be the only podcast, and it said no, there'd be another one. So here is my pendulum.
Oh, I wanted to show you my pendulum.
I want to see it.
I keep it in this little bag.
This bag is so adorable. Adorable.
Miniature version of the bags the Huichols make that they use for carrying things.
Adorable.
But this is the pendulum.
You're not playing. You are not playing. I have never seen a pendulum like that before. Wow.
Look at it, it's responding very intensely. It's going yes. So for me, when it says yes when it goes clockwise, and when it goes counterclockwise, it says no. But I'm just amazed at how much energy it's getting off of your face, because I have to hold this in a certain spot of my body before it starts to react. So anyway, I just wanted to show that to
It's beautiful. Where is that? What is that made from?
It's a piece of like balsa wood, and it has these different symbols on it. There's this symbol on this side, and then this symbol on this side. And I did not know what it was when it was an Ecuadorian shaman that was visiting at our shaman conference, and I had no idea what to do with this. And then one day I had somebody else had a pendulum and they were doing, I said, oh, this is a pendulum. And it has never failed me since. I've had it for years and it doesn't change. I always ask it first, show me what your yes is going to be, show me what your no is. And the thing I just wanted to ask you was, when I was reading through your lovely website and all of the different classes that you offer, which will all be in our description on the show for people to be able to contact you, I read about your pendulum things and I thought, I've only done yes or no. And if it goes this way, it's maybe, it just goes back and forth. But when I was reading the description of your class, it was like there was so many other things to do with the pendulum that I had never, I didn't know, do I sign up here or, where do I call? But I thought if there was anything you could just share in our last little talk here with the listeners about the uses of a pendulum, because this is all I know. And when I saw yours, I was like, what? You can do that? So I was wondering if you had just a little time to share, what that experience
well,
of that.
it still is a yes or no, but I think we can use it for our personal use. I think the thing that maybe you found a little bit interesting or different was using it for Reiki practitioners to boost their diagnostic skills and deepen their connection with spirit when they're doing a Reiki treatment. So over the years, I've been a Reiki Master teacher, I think 13, 14 years now. And I've taught lots of things in Reiki, but there are other courses that I teach to enhance the students' ability to get better. So one of the things I've noticed, I'm sure you've noticed over the years, and maybe you went through yourself, was you're on somebody, giving energy to somebody and things are coming, but you don't know what kinds of questions to ask about the information coming in. So I remember, I always tell my students this story that when I was like at level 1, this girl was on the table in front of me and I just kept seeing Haagen-Dazs, strawberry Haagen-Dazs with a big spoon in it. And I was like, what's that? And I was so embarrassed and so insecure and afraid of being wrong. I went, never mind. And I didn't say anything. And I was working on her stomach. And then Spirit went, Haagen-Dazs, strawberry ice cream. And I'm like, what? I'm not going to tell her. What's that going to do? Spirit said, ask. So I was like, ooh, okay. So I said to her, did you eat? Sorry, I'm really embarrassed. And I made all these excuses, but did you recently eat Haagen-Dazs strawberry ice cream, a big tub of it, like they do in America, on the TV soaps, She said, yeah, I had one last night. She said, me and my boyfriend broke up. And she said, how the hell would you know that? And then I went, but that's just showing off. That's not for me of any interest to be able to do that. And so I said to Spirit, no, I don't want to pick up on that. That's not fun for me. And they went, lactose intolerant.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, trust us. So her stomach that she'd come for the healing for, that she was having so much pain and all that stuff, is because she'd eaten so I said, okay, you've got to trust. So what I realized was we don't really know how to ask the right kinds of questions in order to be able to really expand what you're doing, to make a map. Mm-hmm. So it's basically to give, first and foremost, you should always have a connection with spirit before you use a pendulum. Mm-hmm. And I really want to put that out there. The protection that you need, again, we're back to the protection that you need before you work with anything spiritual, is ultimate, because you don't know what's coming in to give the answer. So right. People need to be very, very mindful. I'm not interested in Ouija boards or any of those kinds of things that bring in dark energies. I'm all about light, 1,000,000%. And I know that you are. So the first thing is protection. So you must have this is how I work personally. You must have some connection with spirit to begin with. So for me, it isn't about the pendulum. Oh, the pendulum said yes to me, or the pendulum said no. And I always tell people, forget all that nonsense. What the pendulum is a final confirmation of what spirit already told you. So when you're not sure as a beginner and you're starting out, I will say to the person, for example, is the heart chakra open? Okay, so for me, just to let you know, I'm going to show you. Show me yes, please. Show me stronger, please. Okay, thank you, Spirit. So mine is back and forward. Thank you, Spirit. Spirit, show me a no, please. See, it's already going. That's my no. Okay. So I would say, is the heart chakra open? Okay, it's a yes. Okay. If I got a no, then I would say, is it in the physical body? And you get a yes or no. Is it in the mental body? Is it in the physical, spiritual, mental? You go through all the bodies. If you get it's in the physical body. Okay, how long is it there? Is it 1 week? Is it 2 weeks? Is it a month? So you keep going. And then especially if it's in the heart chakra, you can say, is it a female? Is this because of a female? Is it because of a male? So they start to break down the kinds of questions they can ask that gets information that's not intrusive, that is not an assumption, and that basically keeps everything with integrity.
You just taught me something wonderful. So I'm so
Oh,
grateful that you've been here as my guest, because I've only used it where I hold the pendulum in front of their body and ask them to ask their own question internally and not to even tell me anything. And then I just say what the pendulum says, yes or no, and they take that information with them. But the idea of me asking questions around their body never occurred to me. So I'm going to try this now that you suggested this, and I'm really, really thrilled about it,
oh,
because then it's
yay.
not just me asking them your own internal question. I may have this, like someone I was doing shamanic stuff on, I could feel how their back was just not correct.
Right.
And so at the end, I said, is there something wrong with your back? And they said, yeah, my dog had knocked me down and I'd been in pain for a while. You could take the pendulum then and hold it into the area of the body and say, does my friend have difficulties right here in this part of their body? And the pendulum could say yes or no. I'm going to try this with my next
But
visiting.
you can also ask things like, was this person not grounded? Is this person
Yes.
not grounded right now? Because although it's in the physical body, the symptom, they might have been in their head so much they tripped on the dog. So you can take it a whole different level instead of just looking at the symptom of the pain in the body. Well, how did they get, you see, I'm getting goosebumps on my face. How did they get there? Are they grounded right now? Well, no. Have you been, because people start falling, like I know for me, I always fall and hurt my arm if I'm not grounded, always.
Mhm.
So then I always go, okay, I was in my head, I wasn't absolutely present at all. And I haven't been for the last week, which is why I've broken glasses and knocked things. But people go, oh, I'm just clumsy right now. Or it
Right.
must be my hormones. But so
Sometimes it
you can
feels
go
like
much deeper.
sometimes it feels like you're even getting pushed. When I have
Right,
those days
right.
that everything is going wrong, I could swear some behind me pushed me, and that's what, and there's nobody there, but it feels really like you've been like, wake up, you idiot, you're half asleep, not to push you down so you'll wake up.
But for real. And the
But
thing is,
for
sometimes
real, you've
spirit,
had that feeling, right?
well, it's like I said to my friend one day, okay, so I fell down and I hurt my arm, but that's better than me getting hit by a car next week because I didn't learn and I didn't realize I'm not grounded and I need to get out of my head. So here's the deal. Instead of saying to the person, oh, is it in your back, when you know, is it in the mental body? Big yes. Okay, so what's this person been stressing about, so that you're not dealing with the symptom, you're getting to the root, so you're helping them in a much deeper way. And they're going to go, oh my God, I didn't connect that. That's amazing.
My next visitor for a shamanic blessing, or I do these little shamanic blessings, or I don't know what to call them. I call them blessings. So the next one that comes, I'm going to use it. I'm going to try a different approach now from what you've taught me today. And I'm very grateful for it. So we have to wind down now. And so I have my final question for you. Can you share with listeners how they can reach you to take a class or have a reading or a healing or anything else before we end our show? Anything you'd like to tell our listeners? You're welcome to say your websites or anything you like, and knowing that the listeners will also be able to read it in the description. But anyone who might be listening and just would like to know right away how they can go right to your website. So if you could just share this little closing part with me.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm actually on, my website is very easy. It's my name, debbiecreagh.com. And there's everything on there. There's lots of different kinds of courses for psychic development, for healing meditation. I've written courses in healing meditation. I've written courses in manifestation that are very cute and fun. I've written courses in the tarot, but not teaching you how to pick up a tarot card and go, okay, this means this. How to actually channel and connect and work with telepathy, and then working with the visions within the tarot and being able to whatever. So I pulled a picture here, for example. This card here is a judgment card.
Yes.
But one day I used this with this gorgeous man, and I had finished channeling for like an hour with him what spirit wanted. And this card came up, and bam, I was in India watching him sitting at a fire ceremony with the bindi and dressed in an orange robe, and he burst into tears. And I said, you're going to spend the rest of your end days in India. And he said, that's been my biggest wish. I've been back and forward to drum circles and fire for 12 years. And I've been wondering if I should go back. So that has nothing to do with the meaning of this card. So there's so much more you can do expanding how we work with spirit. And that's just confirmation, like a pendulum would be for me at the end. So there's courses in that, and there's courses in lots of things and lots of different services. So I work on Zoom, and I work online internationally. Obviously, you can see, oh, by the way, I'm no longer 59 countries. I'm 60.
Oh, wow.
From Slovenia yesterday.
Oh, great. Probably were relative of mine. Who knows? No, I don't know.
So also I'm on TripAdvisor as well. If you put Debbie Creagh Psychic Medium, I pop up. So I'm pretty much all over the internet. When I did the House Hunters on television, people found me very relatively easy. A lot of people in America actually contacted me because they showed it a number of times there, and it was very easy. So I'm on Instagram, Debzer777, EBZER777, Facebook, Debbie Creagh, website, and TripAdvisor, and Google has me as well. So yeah.
Well, thank you. Spell your last name for everyone, because they might think Creagh, which I'm glad I called and spoke with you ahead so I knew how to pronounce it, but it's spelled Creagh.
It is, so yeah, Creagh. It's actually pronounced Creagh.
Creagh.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you so much for being here with us today, Debbie. And
it's been a pleasure.
It's been just an absolute joy to have you here. I hope to have you again, and definitely we'll have to speak in between, or text, email, or whatever it is from here to Thailand. So I want to thank you for sharing your stories. And I want to thank our listeners to remember here on a Small, Medium at Large podcast, like us, share us, subscribe. We'll see you next time. And remember, share your stories. They can heal. Bye. And so now that we're coming toward the end of our talk here, we've had a wonderful visit with our friend Debbie Creagh here. I just had to share one little quick story about myself, who's gone to many different psychics and had readings throughout my life. But I happen to have one particular one that I had in my 30s, somewhere in my 30s. And I wish I knew who that psychic was so I could say to her, oh, you were right, you know? So I asked her back then, because everyone told me you should be writing a book. And I was sort of working on it and didn't really have it done, but I wanted to know, was that a reality? Am I really going to publish a book? And she says to me, oh, yes, you're going to have a book. And she said, you'll be publishing it, but you'll be in your late 60s when you do it. And when she said that, I said to myself, what kind of psychic thing is that to say? 30 years from now, I'm going to write a book and it's finally going to get published? Well, here I am, 66 now, starting a podcast, being on all these interview shows and looking to publish my book. So I'm hoping that that psychic was right, because it is, I'm 66 now. So I'm at that end of the 60s where she said it'll happen. So I'm hoping someday it happens. If anybody knows.
Oh no, you're going to publish your book. You're going to publish your book. And I feel like there's things that you're going to do in the next 2 to 3 years that are really going to consolidate everything that you've done. I feel like this is your time to shine. You're coming out now, and all of this with the podcast, you're going to see next 3 years going to be very exciting.
Well, I hope you'll be around and I'll be able to.
Oh, I will. I will.
Okay, so I'll stop now, but I don't know if that can be put in.